Before we get into our regular agenda, there's some citizens recognitions I'd like to acknowledge. We've had a lot of good things that have happened since our last meeting in December. First of all, our former mayor, Raystine Johnson Ashburn, was honored as one of the Virginia Pilot's Inside Business Women in Business. So that was a good thing for her and well-deserved. Stan Rich, who was a business owner downtown, was recognized with an industry award at the recent Carolina Beach Music Awards, which they called him up to do that. So that was really nice. And most of you are aware that Matt Stout and Blake Rose, both students at Paul D. Camp Community College, competed in the National College Cornhole Championship, where Matt won the singles, and he and Blake, I think, got up to the quarterfinals in the doubles. So, and that was aired on ESPNU, and they had Matt up there with his PDC baseball hat on. So, and they talked about Franklin and Southampton County. So that was a pretty big deal. And then finally, Draylon Ford, he was a senior at Franklin High School, signed a letter of intent to play football at Wake Forest University. And while they were there, I think several of us had the opportunity to be there that day. That's a cumulative $400,000, equal to a $400,000 scholarship. So that's pretty impressive. So congratulations to Draylon. Congratulations to the schools for having a fine, and I'm going to say it the right way, student athlete. So thank you very much. We had no one to sign up for citizens' time. Do I have any amendments to the agenda? If not, we'll move into the consent agenda. First are the minutes from the December, I'm going to take them separately. The December 4th, 2018 meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes?
Mr. Mayor, I move for adoption of the December 4th meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. We also have the December 10, 2018 meeting, which was another work session. Do I have any corrections or additions? Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So be it.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. And we have the December 11th, 2018 meeting. Any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes? Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. We have the December 18, 2018 meeting. Do I have a motion? Or, well, first of all, any corrections or additions?
Yes.
Okay.
The December 18th minutes show me being absent, and we say that we don't do minutes verbatim, but it shows me being absent, and then it shows me being there present at 6:34, and then it shows me being that I left, the time that I left, and had me absent again. So says that I left during closed session, and we had already adjourned the closed session. I was just the first one out of the room. So, and I didn't return to the open session. So if you could take that absent off of that first one, I could vote for that because I was present at the meeting.
So do I have a motion to approve as amended with those corrections in there?
So be it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Those amended minutes will be noted and approved. Thank you. And then we have finally, what's the January 7th, 2019 work session meeting. Any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We had departmental reports that we received under separate cover. Did anybody have any questions or concerns about those? If not, they stand approved as presented then. Okay. We'll get into the finance. We have the mid-year financial reports. Mr. Mundy, I'll let you tee that one up for us.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, we have a few items on your agenda. First, I'd like to mention that the mid-year financial report, that will actually be coming to you at your next meeting in detail. We just wanted you to know that, we've been 6 months through the fiscal year now. We're starting to match up the revenues that were budgeted versus the revenues that were received, and then the same type of exercise with the expenditures and everything, but our finance director will be going over that in detail as your next agenda item as far as the mid-year financial report goes. And then two other items that Ms. Spence will be talking with you about is budget amendments are necessary from time to time to recognize unanticipated revenue and expenditures that may not be in the budget, and also to give you a status update on the management letter that was received with a comprehensive annual financial report for last fiscal year. Ms. Spence is here to address those two items, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Ms. Spence, thank you for coming.
Yes, the first item is budget amendment 2019-6. This is 5 items that are included on this particular budget amendment. The first is to recognize additional revenues related to donations to the police department in the amount of $321. The second item is to reallocate appropriations for additional building security here at City Hall. The third item is to recognize additional revenues from the Commonwealth of Virginia to fund projected increase in DSS workload due to the Medicaid expansion. The fourth is to recognize additional revenues from the camp foundations. And the fifth is to recognize additional revenues associated with recoveries and rebates in the Franklin Economic Development Fund, and to appropriate such revenues for new uses. Entertain any questions you may have.
What is the additional security for the City Hall?
Yes, we're going to have the entry blocks at the front, I guess it would be the back of the building. That's going to be on computerized timers, and everyone's going to have a swiper where they'll be able to swipe coming in after hours. Where what we've been finding is the back's been open. Sometimes it's been open like at midnight.
Has there been a problem with people coming in there or something?
Well, the doors aren't locked, and we have staff here late at night.
I know.
That's the problem.
But I don't recall us discussing that, council discussing that expenditure.
Well, that's what the purpose of the budget amendment, so I guess this would be something we can discuss at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an operational issue, so.
Yeah, and it's for staff security.
Will it affect the doors will be open during the day, it's just they'll close automatically at night, and then you'll swipe with a card?
They can program, like a planning commission has meetings, they can program it way out in advance. If the school board has meetings, they can program it way out in advance, council meetings, work sessions, things of that nature, but there'll be no reason for the building to be unsecured late at night, 11 o'clock at night.
And I'm assuming it will also log people in and log people out, so we'll have an idea of who has been in the building. Is that correct?
I'm going to have to let IT kind of discuss that, but I know that these cards are going to be ID'd by an
Right.
employee.
Okay.
My computer is acting up, my laptop, so I don't have the individual amounts. How much are we paying for this security?
$4,900.
Okay, and because we are always looking at, we haven't increased our revenue side for the city. Is this an why at this time is this expenditure being asked for? Just so we can have something cool?
Right, no. There were times that, particularly with the utility staff working late at night, that the building has been left open. And that, so there was money deducted from other areas within the accounting department, that there was going to be a project with the document management system. So I just took that project off.
So whose idea was it?
Well, it was collectively along the building about the upper management, that there was a need to secure the building.
It's for the security of the employees.
Security of the employees. But again, this is a budget amendment, so if council decides you don't think you need it, then you can just adopt the budget amendments excluding those particular items.
Other questions for Ms. Spence?
Who would be privy to the cards?
Well, that would be decided by, anyone who's in the building itself. So, of course, council would have it, the building, we have council meetings, the building's going to be open. We have planning commission meetings, the building's going to be open. If we have employees, then it's just like if we're supposed to be here 8:30 to 5, the buildings are going to be open. But if we have people that are usually going to be working late, things like that, then it's just like what they have now. They have security areas right now already in the building. It's my understanding that there's certain people who can get in the treasurer's department, there's certain people that get in the commissioners. The same type of thing. It's actually pretty common in other municipal buildings.
Okay.
This type of security, so.
Thank you.
Clarification, you said on his question he asked, you said council would have these cards?
Well, I'm not sure, council, what I'm saying, that building's going to be open for meetings. It's my understanding. It's not going to be.
I would think anytime the council's going to be meeting, it'll be programmed in, so whether we have a work session or whatever, the doors will be
The
open.
board has meetings, or, except you
Yeah,
just.
I would think the city manager would assign the cards to people that needed it, that were privy to it. It wouldn't be up to,
And IT, it's all programmed into a calendar, yeah. And I'll just defer to Mr. Marty too.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may say a few words. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the need. Twice, to my knowledge, the building has been found unlocked at midnight or later or the next morning. I think that's unacceptable. I don't care how good you plan, but there are times where there might be a meeting in the building in the evening, and then whoever's supposed to lock the door that particular day, they were already home, and then the door didn't get locked. Ms. Spence mentioned that this is common in most governments. It is. All governments I've worked in, we've had a problem like this before, and the best way to address it are these self-locking doors. Places I've worked at in the past, we found people in the building 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We had a couple of fires set in the restrooms, public restrooms in the government building, had theft of items from the building. And then you have security issues, and you do have a lot of employees that go above and beyond the call of duty, especially our exempt employees. They may come in on nights, weekends, or holidays and work to get caught up or get ahead on their tasks. And we want to make sure that they're safe while they're in the building. And also, we will have able to track people that come into the building. Ms. Spence also mentioned the fact that there will be a calendar. IT will be able to take a master schedule. If the school board, planning commission, anyone like the city council is using the building, into the calendar, you can put in there that the meeting will be from 7 till 10 or whatever, and you set the time is what I'm saying, that the doors will automatically lock, and that way you know it's over and done with and the building is secure. But we also, after hours, we will, the staff will look at the employees that have a need to enter the building after hours. And of course, you only want to give cards to the people that have a need to enter after hours. Mr. Cheatham is exactly right. The staff would look at that on a case-by-case basis and issue those cards. they do have a cost. And then the other thing about it is if we have an employee that we have to terminate, somebody that's resigned, and they don't turn in their access to the building, they can be cut off to where they cannot enter the building after hours. Can't really say that for the building while it's open, but after hours, we can certainly restrict their access. The other good thing about this feature, it's also compatible with software that we use in the building and some of the other electronic features that we have in the building. And when the staff talked about this, we really thought the solution would be $10,000 or more, and we were pleasantly surprised that we could get it done for less than $5,000. So I think it's a good price. I commend the staff for finding some savings in other areas and been able to use existing resources to make this happen now. But I do think in the name of security, it would be a wise investment for the city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Is it for these two doors back here or just the one on the street side?
It's going to be, it's my understanding, the ones that are on the parking lot.
The parking lot,
main
that's what I
parking
thought,
lot.
okay.
Yeah, and the ones on Second Avenue, they're just going to be locked 8.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out that this doesn't take any additional revenue.
Right.
Right.
This is finding savings in other line items that we're just shifting money around.
So obviously, we have money in other areas that we didn't need money.
Well, they may have not spent the money on a particular project to make this a priority.
Yeah, she just told us that she had a project that she put on hold to
What project
fund
was
this.
that?
It's the document management system.
Okay, because I'm starting to get calls again from citizens on utility bills, and this almost seems like a luxury item, and the city manager's description reminds me of when I was here, and they were pitching for the computer system, all the advantages it was going to have and how great it was going to work, and it wouldn't cost us so much money. And I'm still always cognizant of you can't spend monies that you don't make. We don't have a new additional revenue stream for an additional $5,000, and I'm very aware that we're moving and juggling money around. But when we just casually go spending money for things, which if I hadn't mentioned this, I don't even know if we would have had a discussion on this. It is just present it, we approve it, and move on. But it's citizens' tax dollars, and I think it deserves to be vetted. And finally, I just don't think that we've had a lot of problems, and yeah, you don't wait till you have a problem always to address a problem, but I just don't think that we've had problems. Somebody left the door open, and somebody should have gotten in trouble for that. But to just run out and buy electric locks because other cities have it, other cities have a lot of things that we can't afford. But thank you for your recommendation.
Any other discussion? If not, what is there a pleasure of council as far as budget amendment 2019, correct? 2019-06.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Budget Amendment 2019-6.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next budget amendment I have submitting for approval is Budget Amendment 2019-7. It's to reallocate $8,633 from professional services in the community development budget to salaries and fringe benefits to cover the city's portion of salary to fill the inspector positions as a result of employees' retirement. This is a shared service position, and Southampton's county has verified that their portion of the salary is funded in fiscal year 19. And secondly, is to authorize the use of fund balance in the water and sewer fund to pay pro rata fees received in prior fiscal years to the developer for the River State Estates subdivision pursuant to the city's pro rata policy in the amount of $56,000.
Okay.
Submitting this budget amendment for your approval.
Any questions for Ms. Spence considering the budget amendment?
Can you just real quickly explain exactly what we're doing? We collected money in a previous year
Yes.
from the developer.
It's, yes, from,
Part of the project.
this is, actually, I'm going to defer either to Mr. Williams or Mr. Goodwin. It's on the pro rata policy of the city.
You want to flip for it?
I know that, good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I know that some of you weren't here when this subdivision amendment was adopted. Some of you were here. I think it was 2009, somewhere 2008-9. And what it's for is for properties that are in a service district, whether it's water, sewer, or stormwater, in an area that's undeveloped in the city, such as our North High Street corridor. There's a lot of vacant properties out there. And at one time, we had 4 or 5 subdivisions that were in the process of being approved. And with that, knowing that was coming, the council adopted a pro rata policy that requires the other developers, based on the number of lots that they would have, to pay their pro rata portion of regional water systems and regional pump stations for sewer, so we don't have all this piecemeal in the city. The subdivision, the pump station that you see on North High Street, there close to Riverwood, will serve that whole area all the way back to the hospital. So if every lot in that whole, both sides of the road is ever developed, that pump station will be able to handle it. Now, there will be a certain number of lots, once it gets to a certain threshold of lots, there's improvements that would have to be done to the force main from the pump station to the next pump station, and so on and so forth, up to, including all the way to the wastewater treatment plant. Now, the first developer in pays for the cost over and above what his needs would be, which was the 77 lots at Riverwood, but he paid for the improvements that would cover all of the lots. So the pro rata policy allows him to collect what he's spent in 2 ways. He has to elect. He can either elect pro rata share, and he only gets that portion when another subdivider comes in to develop their portion. They pay their portion to the first developer. Or he can elect to choose tap fees. Tap fees for water and sewer connections within the subdivision that he built for his 77 lots. And what we've collected to date is $56,000. We just, in the last 60 to 90 days, gotten the pro rata agreement signed by the developer. So it's been since 2009. So there's been 7 lots developed, and that's what we're here. He did elect to receive the tap fees. So that's where we are. What we will do is reimburse those in January and July of every year to the developer, depending on what we take in. Take tap fees in and then just send them back out. Once the 77 lots are developed, he gets no more tap fees. Now we will reach what we owe him for water before the 77 lots are done, but we won't reach the total amount for sewer after the 77 lots. I think there's something like a $230-some thousand balance that will be left, which he won't be able to claim.
Questions, Mr. Gilbert?
Hasn't that area out there changed hands 2 or 3 times? And how
Yes,
does
sir.
is that why it took so long to get things signed?
Yes, sir, and in fact that it wasn't developing, wasn't really doing anything, and there was no other developers, looking to start, like the village at Lake Charles, that was the next one that was coming, they've held up. But their plans are still approved. So based on the legislation that keeps changing to allow, based on the housing crisis that we had back in 05, 07, that it's moving these approved plans up. So these subdivision plans are still, a lot of them are still approved. And again, they can come back at any time and start the process.
Other questions? Thank you.
How many lots have been developed?
7.
7. The builder, is he aggressive of building more?
Well, there've been 3 built in the last year and a half. Before that, it was probably 6 or 7 years ago when those other ones were built. Roswell Homes purchased 30 lots. They developed 5 right off the bat. Nothing happened. He actually donated the rest of those lots to Habitat for Humanity. So Habitat owns those lots, and I think the builder that purchased these lots got those from Habitat and developed those. So I think as Habitat may need funds for whatever, I don't think they have the desire to build there, because there's some deed restrictions that require certain square footage, you know, brick foundations and those kind of things. So I think they're using those lots to sell off in increments to help them out on other projects that they're working on.
Okay, so the housing that's being built, that has been built, would follow that similar standard, and you wouldn't
sir.
have any
The deed restrictions.
substandard homes?
No, they won't build any substandard homes.
Okay.
Those covenants and deed restrictions.
Okay,
in there.
thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Desired action of council on budget amendment 219-07.
Move to approve budget amendment 219-7.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next is the CAFR management letter update.
As you're aware, the city's auditor issued a management letter pursuant to the fiscal year 18 fiscal audit. The management letter addressed 4 areas of concern related to the school's financial accounting practices. The school superintendent responded to these areas of concern in a letter dated December 13, 2018. In regards to the area of concern for the school's reconciliation between the RDA system and the city's admin system, the city finance staff has met with the school finance staff and the school superintendent, and this issue will be resolved to the auditor's satisfaction. The other 3 areas of concern are dealt solely by the school's finance staff, so I will let Ms. Tamara Sterling address them directly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The last 3 concerns is what I talked to Ms. Spence about, Mr. Monday. We have a professional development plan. We're meeting with our finance department, and at this time, we are very pleased to be partnering and working with the city's finance department to ensure that everything that has been asked for is collected in a timely manner.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Sterling? So everybody's on board with what new or what changes are going to be made to ensure
Yes, sir.
that we don't have these again, correct?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Moving along, we have the old and new business, the Armory Field lighting project. Mr. Williams? Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Every August, there is a process that Parks and Recs go through with Power and Light to go to Armory Field, to turn on the lights, see what's working and what's not working, and at that point, climb the poles to try to switch out the bulbs that need to be switched out. If they find electrical problems, go ahead and solve the electrical problems, that sort of thing. This particular August of this past year, Mr. Frank Davis called me to indicate that there was a problem, that Power and Light no longer had the capability of climbing up the poles. The poles have a date stamp on them. I believe the date is 1982. You actually have a picture of it in the package of pictures before you, and I think it's the last one. If I remember correctly, the poles are dated as of 1982, which makes the poles just 37 years old. And so things wear out. And last year, as I understand it, what occurred was the normal routine. When I say last year, in 2017, the normal routine was for the folks from Power and Light to come to Armory Field with a bucket truck. The bucket truck would go up as high as the bucket truck could reach. When the bucket truck got to its top height, then the employee would step out of the bucket onto the pole and climb the rest of the way to switch out the bulbs and check on the maintenance. In 2017, when the employees came down from the poles, they said, we're not going back, it's not safe. So you have these pictures that depict for you the deterioration of the poles. What you're looking at is generally the tops of these poles, and the platforms are attached to the top of the poles, and as you can see, some of the tops of the poles are deteriorating pretty badly. You've got a lot of rust that appears on the metal supporting the platforms at the top of the poles. And these poles, what are they, 170 feet high? 80 feet tall. Well, I only doubled it, so I'm trying to get a little extra emphasis in there. Anyway, 80 feet tall. And so, you know, it's when the employees say they don't think it's safe to climb the poles anymore, and I think there were concerns also about the rebar. They would take rebar and stick in the sides of the pole, then that accounted for the handholds and the steps. And so when you're that high up and all of a sudden you step on a rod that doesn't support your weight anymore, that gets to be kind of dangerous and a little bit scary. And so what we had to do in 2018 was to bring in a lift truck that would go up 80 feet and actually carry our employees all the way up to the platforms where they could work from the bucket on the man lift and do that in a safe manner. That was an extra expense of $3,000. Wasn't budgeted by Power and Light, and it wasn't budgeted by Parks and Rec. But it was necessary because it had to have Friday night lights. And so football season began with the lights that we had. Little League football began also. The field out there, when high school gets going and, you know, it gets to be baseball season, they play games at night. Soccer games are played at night. So the field in general gets an awful lot of use. The decision was made, I shouldn't say it that way. Mr. Bly took it upon himself to see what needed to be done because this situation was not going to get any better. So he found this company, Musco, and the folks from Musco came and met with us at the Public Works building and explained to us their process and what they would do in terms of investigating, the no expense involved in that. They did come. They were met at the field. I had intended to be at that meeting, but on that particular occasion I had more obligations than I could keep, and so the one that got dropped was the Musco lighting. But Mr. Bly was present, and Clay Hyatt, who is with Parks and Rec and is here tonight, he went to that meeting. You have the report from Musco. I hope you've had a chance to review that report, but it tells you basically that, if I understand the report correctly, we're at about half what we should have for a typical high school football field that includes baseball and soccer and Little League and everything else. And so the next step in the process after having that audit completed and reported was to then ask them to submit to us various options. And so what you have in front of you are the various options that Musco is willing to undertake the renovation of all of the light poles. And I think you actually have an overhead view that shows all 8 of the poles. If you see the little numbering system, they start in one location and numerically go around till you get all 8 of them in. But that's how many poles we have. And so they have provided us with different options. I think there were 3 options that deal with us financing it on our own and just paying them out, and then one lease option that had 4 sub-options to it, where we could lease to own the different options. So it's kind of brought to you for information purposes because there are some big numbers there. The numbers do not involve replacement of the poles. Is that?
There's 4 options, 2 are for replacement of poles, 2 are for using the existing poles they have.
All right, and that's one other step that I failed to mention. We have had a structural engineer come out and take a look at it. They hadn't shown up yet. All right, but we're trying to find out what is the condition of our poles. Are they good for another 5 years? Are they good for another 50 years? Even though they appear to be deteriorating some, we need to know what's the lifespan of our poles. And so the numbers could change a little bit if we have to change out some or all of the poles. But it's here for information purposes. It is budget time. They did play football last year under the lights that we had, but that situation is only going to get worse. I do believe Mr. Bly informed me that we went out and saw the lights on at one point. Then they came with the man lift and put in all the new bulbs that were necessary, and they left the field. And then when Musco came to do its audit, there were bulbs that had gone out in that short period of time. So this is not a situation that's going to get any better. It's only going to deteriorate. So we're bringing it to you at this point for consideration. I wonder if there might be some grants available for Parks and Rec to get this situation, because Parks and Rec probably uses it for, uses the location more than anybody else. But it is a community location that involves an awful lot of different uses, and so it is important to the community that there be light, and hopefully better light is better than no light. So I'll try to answer
the
questions.
numbers at some point in time because I don't have them anywhere.
I don't either.
We didn't get the
You
numbers.
didn't get the,
No.
We don't have the Moscow report.
We don't have the report or the numbers.
So I would really like to see it at some point.
So you can email.
Okay.
You
And
can
we don't
email
have the picture of all the, of all 8
number 8.
aerial.
We've got individual pictures, but no.
all right, well, the report was sent in the agenda. I understand some of you had problems getting the agenda because the certificate
Right.
interfered, so I hadn't counted on the fact that y'all didn't have that,
Well, I
or
downloaded the
benefit of that, but we do have that report. I apologize, I've just been rambling along.
Well,
Wish you'd stopped me sooner.
Well, that's okay, that's okay. It's probably a good time to let the citizens know that if you have been trying to contact somebody on council since last Wednesday, I believe, you've probably been unsuccessful because our server has been, I'm not going to say it's been down, it's just not been very cooperative with emails. So, so if you've been trying to get in touch with us, it's our untimely response is due to the fact we probably hadn't received the emails. So if you send it to the city website or to the city email. And I downloaded mine from the website, and it was not included in the website.
That's what I did as well.
That was because I did not have it.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You got it. I know, I sent it.
Okay.
I have 2 copies of
We will
that.
correct it. I apologize.
Okay.
I just have one question, I don't know if it's relevant, but what has this got to do with legal? And why is this presentation not being made by department head opposed to legal?
Well, Councilman McLemore, I'm the deputy city manager, and I was asked to do the report, so I'm doing the report.
Who asked?
The city manager did.
Okay. Just one, no? Because I know
Okay.
you're supposed to be the...
I think Mr. Bland wanted to talk.
Mr. Bly.
Just a couple comments. The situation that the city attorney referenced when a few days after we had spent the time and the money to get the bulb changed, and was Musco's first visit on site one evening, and we turned the lights on, and all 8 poles did not light. One pole in entirety did not light, and it was underground secondary fault. And the system had not been turned on since we had finished installing the bulbs. If you go out there today, there's at least 2 bulbs that are out. So one comment about the Musco lighting program, if and when you get the information, they offer two options. One is what they call 30/30 options, which happens to do with the candle power that you see on the field. It's recommended for high school play. On a baseball field, it's 50-foot candles and 30 on the football field. So they offer both options, 30/30 and 50/30. Then they've gone a step further. If we're able to get a structural engineer say that our poles are okay to put new equipment on, it's one price, and they will warranty all equipment for 10 years. If we finance it through them, well, if we install that. If we put their poles in a complete new system from the ground up, all underground cables are replaced, all cables going up the poles are replaced. They offer a 25-year warranty on that, and that's everything. If a bulb goes bad, they come out and replace it. We have no maintenance to do on the system for 25 years. And that includes anything, the wire in the ground goes bad, they'll come out and fix that too, so.
And does this cover the football field, the baseball, and the softball, or just the football
This
and
is
the
just,
baseball?
the softball field it was looked at, but I mean, we didn't include that in this. It's the biggest issue at this point is the football, baseball field.
Because I know we shared a softball field with the college. I didn't know if the college
Yeah,
used that.
that's not in the same shared field.
Okay.
But as it stands right now, those lights are a whole lot newer.
So this is just for informational purposes, so as we address the budget. So we've got time, Mr. Williams, to...
Yes, sir.
To look.
And if I help me out with my memory, Mr. Bly, didn't the report also indicate with the new bulbs that they would be installing that the consumption of electricity would be a whole lot less?
Yeah, it's LED fixtures. There's a whole lot less of them, and there's a whole lot less glare from the surrounding areas. Like if you see a football game going on Armory Field now, I'm not sure how far down Armory Drive you can see the lights are on. With this system, you won't see that hardly even across the street. And they are LED fixtures, and they're computer controlled. Let's say there was a function going on and somebody one evening and it didn't get scheduled properly, and Clay gets a call sitting home, he can take his cell phone and turn the lights on in the stadium from home. So, and that also allows the Musco will monitor the lighting for the lighting output, and they'll know before we do that the bulb is out, and they'll come and fix it. So,
Okay.
look forward to working with you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank y'all.
Clay has something to say to us.
Okay.
Also,
Come on up so we
Get
can...
your picture on camera.
Also, one other thing on the bulbs, to change these bulbs, it's actually a panel box 10 feet above the ground on the pole, so you wouldn't need lifts or anything like that. So a lot more efficient on that end.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next, Mr. Williams, is the Rawls Farm lease amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rawls Farm lease is with Carr Farms. Mrs. Carr, who's the
Probably should turn them off.
who is the operator of the Rawls Farm, is present tonight.
Trying to turn it off.
I apologize to you.
Me too. I'm trying to turn it off.
Ready to go?
Please.
Thank you, sir. This farm is one that has only been operated by Carr Farms in the farming season of 2018. They took the lease or received the lease beginning in January of 2018. Their equipment is equipped with, I can't remember if it's GPS or GIS. GPS? Okay, GPS. So they're able to measure the fields as they farm. I was aware from a trip several trips actually, that I had to take to go into the backside of the farm where the cell tower was supposed to go. In that back area, I noticed that there was a portion of the farm that looked to be like it had grown into cattails, which told me we might have a problem as far as it being that part of the property had become wetlands. I did not actually go over there and investigate it. I had no idea how big it was. I wouldn't have any way of measuring it or anything like that, but I will say that I did observe that I thought we might have a problem in that particular area. So I had a conversation with Ms. Carr about that, and so they measured everything as they farmed in the spring, and came back and told me that there was 2.7 acres of land that couldn't be cultivated because it had become wetlands. And so I am recommending that we make an adjustment on the farm lease rent to account for those 2.7 acres. The bid that was received from Carr Farms was $128.75 per acre. So I simply did the math, multiplied 228.75 by 2.7. Actually, Ms. Carr did the math for me, and I checked it after her. So she brought me a check with the reduced amount, and I'm recommending that we amend the lease. The lease goes on for another 3 years, I believe, and so we need to amend the lease so that it will reflect the right amount of income, and we'll be good to go. So I'm asking council to do a motion to amend the lease.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Williams?
I make a motion that we amend the lease.
I have a motion to amend the lease, and I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye, and nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Aye. And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Before we leave this, I'd like to ask Mr. Williams, what do you mean was where it was supposed to go?
Yeah, I was
The cell tower.
you said was supposed to. You mean
Well,
is supposed
It
to?
is going.
At the time I was going out, it was supposed to, so I've just got that stuck in my mind. I'm sorry. It is still supposed to go there.
All right, good.
Okay.
Okay, online bill pay discussion. You want to tee that one up for us, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As you know, the council has talked about this the past 2 meetings in preparation for a decision tonight. What we're basically talking about is the city is very close to being able to offer the citizens the ability to use the online bill pay option. It could include their taxes in anything that the city collects in revenue from utility payments, dog tags, any of our fees that the citizens would pay. We talked extensively about this at your last meeting that you had, your work session last week. Staff provided information to you on the cost if the citizen pays that or if the city pays that. We told you what the impact is on the budget under the option that if you as a council decide to pay that yourself, without passing that on. So, Mr. Mayor, really, two things are here before you. One is, do you want to go forward with online bill pay? And if you do, we need to know who's going to pay that so Edmonds can build the module and everything that's needed to make this happen. And Mr. Mayor, we have staff here that can answer any questions that you may have. But we do need an answer for you so they can build the module.
I think the question is not whether we want online bill pay, because I think that was a decision we made when we decided to purchase the software. And we all, I think, were in agreement that that was going to be one of the caveats that we were going to have. I think the question is what are we going to do with the service fee? I mean, am I correct?
Yes, you are.
So I think that's where we stand with that. So we'll open that one up. Do you want some discussion on that, or do you want us to? We discussed it ad nauseum the last time, but any other discussion on that? Or what we want to do? I think just for everybody's recall, we're paying approximately $65,000 a year now that the city is paying for those people who use the credit cards for payments. If we keep it, if it grows like it has over the last couple of years, it will increase another $60,000, which means the city would pay roughly $125,000, and I'm rounding these numbers, $125,000 that the city would have to absorb. The other thing would be that based on usage in other localities, it seems that it would be probably more than the $60,000. But I think that's a conservative number for us to look at. So we're looking at either, what are we going to do as far as the $125,000?
My biggest problem is it's going to cost a customer $2.95 per transaction, according to the letter that I've seen here in front of me, versus I think it was $1.17 now. I think it's a heck of an increase. No matter what route we take, I think the customers that are using it as a convenience needs to pay the charge.
That's
what I'm reading here in front of me.
That's the percentage.
It's the correction. It's 2.95% per transaction.
Okay, because it says $2.95 per transaction in the letter that we have in the agenda.
2.9.
It's actually 2.95%
Versus 1.17? What are we paying now? I can dig out my
What we
notes.
talked about last week, we were averaging, let's see here, let me re-pull that. The 1.75, I mean, the 0.295 is if they use a credit card or a debit card.
Right.
And if the city pays it, it's 2.25, 1.75 for a debit card. It was, I think it was an average per transaction was 1.17%.
That's what I had in my head.
That's what we averaged it out based on all the cards.
Right.
And there's different fees for each card based on the way we're working it now.
Right.
So we just took the figures and did it as an average.
I understand.
Okay.
But it's still a big difference.
Yes.
Because either way, I would think that the customer that's doing it needs to pay for the use of their card, for that convenience.
Yes, sir.
Neither am I an accountant or that great in math, but if a person paid a utility bill for $400 using their debit card, what would the service fee be?
It would be 2.95%.
And about what is that?
Shy of $12.
About $12. Shy of $12. So right now, the city is paying 1.75 or something like that for them, or they're paying a percentage of it?
1.17%.
We're paying all of it.
Yeah, well, we're paying, but,
It's average of 1.17% of the $400 that you do.
So with what's going on now, it is based on the type of card.
So at no,
So if you have a platinum card or a gold card, those rates and those fees are different. They're based on the type.
so at no scenario would they be paying a set fee, like $2, $1.50, or a set fee?
It'd be a percentage,
It'd be a percentage.
right?
Suppose a person with this automatic payment, each month they would have to pay that fee if it's debited out of their checking account?
Yes.
Not if they're debited, not if it's a cash.
That's, I'm asking.
They can do an electronic check, which is
Right.
what you're talking about. That's $1.05.
Say it again.
If they electronically debit their account through their checking account, it's not tied to a credit card, it's the electronic check, it's going to be $1.05, no
Per
matter
month.
what the price is, the size of it is.
So how does the citizen go about knowing the differentiation between, or the difference between using a debit card and an electronic check? They think, your people ask,
the way they're
you want to
voting.
do it credit or debit? And the person has a choice to say credit or debit.
There's a lot of variances here. Debit cards go through a credit card transactional, but an electronic check is they're giving their bank account number, they're giving the bank's routing number, the bank checking account number.
Is it like
So
an
that's
automatic draft?
It can be, or they can initiate it at that time and it drafts out of their checking account. If they're using a debit card, that is tied to a Visa, MasterCard debit card, and it's all in the back ends of their banking account.
So they can let you know to put their bank account
They
info.
will, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, I apologize. They will let it, at the time of their entry, when they do it in the computer, they will select electronic check. And then they'll go in there and start filling out their bank's routing number that it would be on their checking account.
They being the citizen?
The
or-
citizens, yes.
No, I'm talking about the person that walks up to the counter to
We would
pay
not-
their bill with a plastic.
That would
Now-
be the same.
Okay, so do they have the option?
They would be, it's not an electronic check. It's still a swipe of the credit card, but it's a debit swipe.
Okay, so the only way they can do an electronic check is how?
Through the computer.
Who? Through their computer?
Correct.
So that's online billing.
Correct.
So they really don't have a choice to get, the only way they get out of these excessive fees is to pay cash.
No, they can write me a check. That's not electronically, but they can come in and write me a check just like we had, told you how many checks we did. I mean, we accept checks every day as long as they're in good standing with the city. So yeah, they can still come in, pay cash or write a check to the city at no charge.
But if they use their card, it's going to be
Right. It's the option of using the credit card.
2.95% of whatever the amount is. So again, a $400 light bill will cost them an additional $12.
If they choose to
use plastic.
Plastic or a credit card or their plastic debit card, yes, sir.
See, because, just for clarification, I was under the assumption that what we were approving were for people who did online paying from home, paying from their cell phone, things of that nature. I didn't know we were going to be able to be tapping such exorbitant fees on people who still came down here and paid their bill, but they used their debit card. Thank you for the clarification.
My thoughts are, I hate to see another fee added to every residence in the city of Franklin that's using a credit card, personally. I don't like seeing another cost to live in the city of Franklin. Our option, in my opinion, is keep it as it is and not have online paying if it's going to cost every citizen in every household, let me put it that way. Yeah. I have a problem with putting another cost to live in the city of Franklin. There's got to be ways, if we had to absorb the fees as a city, that we can find it in maybe other areas of the city that's could be taken from other departments. if personnel, whatever. But to say you're going to put a charge on every house that's going to pay in the city, again, it's just hard for me to accept.
Well, right now, we're paying, citizens are paying $65,000 for those people who use a credit card.
That's correct. And you know, it is a cost to operate a business. Franklin is a business.
Right.
So can you recap it and get it back? I've been told not legally in the government system or whatever. But I just don't feel we can put another fee on every household in the city of Franklin that's paying their electric bills.
Mr. Mayor, just one correction. It's not every household in Franklin. It's every household that uses a credit card.
I said with credit card. But you
Because
take
a lot of people like myself don't do that, and it doesn't cost me a nickel
Benny,
to
you
do
got a
that.
person that's got $1,000 electric bill, you just pop them for $30 more.
If he
And
uses
it's
a
gonna
credit
be a
card.
A lot of
fee on
people don't have a
electronic
choice
check.
but to use a credit card because they don't have the finances to do otherwise.
I feel very much like Mr. Cutchins, but I'm going to kind of stay out of it, because if I fight for changing it, they'll sure enough do it.
It's tough out here, and people pay by whatever means they have. They're already having to pay an interest on the credit card. They're going to pay a fee of another, say, $15 to $30 per month. It's just hard to put another cost of living in the city of Franklin.
I agree with Mr. I agree.
So what are we going to do?
Conversation.
Well, let me just ask a question. What are we going to do with if we don't do the online side?
If we don't do the online site, we do what we have always done.
So that means that we're going to have to find a way to come up with anywhere from $65,000, whatever that number is.
You've been doing it.
So,
Well,
we've been doing it because it's been coming out of,
We want to,
I understand, I'm just
we
saying,
want to draw people to want to be here, and we got to find a way to make it happen.
well, the only way is to tell people that we're not going to accept credit cards.
Well, online, if you pay like you've been paying, charge like you've been charging, is an option, until you find a resolution.
I think that was part of the problem we had, was whether it was really an option or not with this company, whether they would let us do that.
right.
And, there was some
It seems
question.
the fees for having
Is-
online.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, but by the same token, I mean, if we think about it, $65,000 is a little over a penny as far as our taxes.
Well, I personally would, I'd rather see an increase somewhere else than to say everybody's got to pay a penalty for electrical,
Well, I mean,
using credit card.
well, if you use the numbers, $125,000 is going to be worth about 3 pennies. So, we're going to raise taxes 3 pennies for everybody so that we can subsidize those people who are paying with credit card. I mean, that's the question.
Dude, I probably should know this answer, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. People coming in paying property tax. Is there a fee added for property tax?
It's a swipe of the credit card. It doesn't matter what they're paying. It's their personal property taxes, it's their real estate taxes, it's their, any type of tax, a business license, any type of payment to our locality. It is going to be if they use their credit card.
But my question was, is the consumer paying it or is the city paying it?
Right now,
Yes, ma'am.
the city's paying it.
That's what I thought.
So how would it work? Say my account is already drafted, or his account is automatic payment. So will it automatically roll over if we get this online, or we would have to come in and set up another account, or how would that work?
When we go live with the Edmunds software, we will be initiating the signatures for the WIP program, the WIP processing. And once we go that, we will still handle the transactions for the walk-ins. If somebody was to call and wanted to help a daughter or whatever, we might would draft them into the WIP, but we would leave the Edmunds website and go into the WIP program and handle that transaction. Once we leave the city's website and we go into the WIP, WIP is handling the transaction of what we're doing, that customer's transaction. They are handling that. So we're not going to see a charge from the citizen. We're going to see what we actually charge for a utility bill or whatever they're trying to pay. Everything else is handled through the WIP program, the portal that pays that account.
I guess I'm saying, if a person is already in a monthly draft, it's coming out, is it going to roll over to the WIP program, or does?
It depends on how they're setting it up, and I think what you're saying is, are they set up to do bill pay through their bank account?
Right.
A bill pay is totally different than what an online bill payment is. A bill pay is where they go into their bank account and they initiate a bill pay. And that bill pay takes them to outside of their banking and cuts a check. So it cuts a hard check to us, and then it is possibly sent to California. It could be sent to, it's like 8 places, and they handle that transaction for that citizen or that banker. And then the bank that's handling that processing sends me a fiscal check. So if you do it, or Bobby does it, or Mr. Johnson does it, or whoever does it, I'm going to get a single check from each one of you. It's going to come in 2. Some of them come separately. Some come 20 to an envelope. They're manually processed in my office. That is not a charge unless their bank charges them for bill pay. That's a different type of payment processing than what we're talking here. That won't change.
Okay. Are we clear on that? Because I want to go back to the 65,000.
I'm going to ask, do you have any idea about how many what percentage of people uses charge cards by any chance? Just a ballpark?
I'd hate to ask you, I'd hate to answer that
Okay.
because it's about, I think we said 29,000 transactions were done last year by credit cards. The majority of it is coming in. Let me see, I have that paper. Hold on. We still get the majority of our money and transactions through our checks, whether they're bill pay or a fiscal check written to the city that's coming in their night drop, or however they want to handle it, mailed into us. And the credit cards are, actually what I did look, it's 26,800 credit card transactions. So we still get the majority of it through checks, or checks are the majority, then we get cash, and then credit cards. So our majority is still cash and checks right now.
Non-chargeable.
Non-charges, yes.
Now, if we go back to the 26, I think, no, 65,000, that could easily escalate, as Ms. Babb just said, 29, let's say if it doubled, then the city is paying more money for the service. So basically, as a business operates, the fee is passed down to the customer, because I would not want to see a fee added to the utility bills or anything to use that. That would be too devastating. But I think one of the problems is we were using, if I'm correct, we were using SunTrust, correct?
Yes.
And SunTrust's fee was lower than the fee that we're talking about. And with Edmunds, the people that they're using, fee is higher. So basically, we're looking at a higher fee, but even for people who want to still use their credit cards. And before, the credit card use was lower because of SunTrust. Now we're going to look at an escalated price of those who prefer to use that. And then if we decide to absorb it, we're looking, say, double 65, as the mayor said, we're looking at 100-some thousand, and it could go beyond that. So that's basically where we are. If there is a fee, we have to look at the cost, even with Edmonds to do that, basically, as Bobby said, basically, putting extra costs on the citizens is something we don't need to do. We need to keep it average. We need to keep it advertised and inviting for individuals to come and use our electrical service in the city of Franklin.
Mr. Mayor, one concern that I have as I've sat here and listened is we don't know what the usage is going to be going forward. And we're going to budget. Let's say we double our budget and we go to 125,000, but the people double the amount that we added. We got a $250,000 number, and how are we going to pay for that when we've already budgeted? So
that's where you have the option now to decide whether to go forward with it or not.
Can I
basically?
Can I just make one comment, please, from what Mr. Johnson was saying, and I think some of you others have alluded to, the difference between what SunTrust is charging now versus what will be charged on the Edmonds. And I hope I'm not making it any more harder to understand or making my thought factor not coming out clear. We did an average. So those customers that are coming in with their specific credit card is a different, we took all the transactions and did the fee. But your credit card and, for example, Mayor Rabel's credit cards are different credit cards. He may pay a higher one, you may pay a lower one, or vice versa. We don't know what those specific credit cards do. What we took is we compiled what we had as figures for the credit card numbers, the transactions, and divided it by the amount. We didn't go card by card. There's almost an impossibility to do that. What the WIP program did, and my understanding of that is they have analysts out there that compiled all the credit cards out there, and they compiled those fees and came up with a fair fee to where it's not this fee for this card, that fee for that card. They did a specific amount, and that's what they're doing. So some cards that they may come in and swipe with us on the new program may have a higher cost at 2.95, but Edmonds has negotiated and with the bank, that the 2Gov Chase Bank, for a fee that is fair to the citizens who are utilizing it. So they're in their back office did the negotiations. We don't do the negotiations. But if Jane Doe comes in to me and uses her whatever platinum card, it may have a higher fee because she's getting points or she's getting whatever. So we're not going to know those specific fees, and I hope I'm not making it harder about where my brain is going.
Confusing.
And sometimes I don't get it out correctly, but that's what I'm trying to understand. We quoted you a 1.17. That's just a general of what we pay versus the usage. It could be totally different if we do it another way. We just took those figures and divided it by the number, divided by the dollars.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are you saying that, or in your memory of all the cards you use, are any of them 2.5 times higher than the 1.17?
Oh, could be, yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yes, sir.
All right.
Like I said, some may have a lower because of the way their cards are. They negotiated with their credit company, but yes, there are some out there that have a higher than 2.9.
No, okay, but okay, so it's higher than the
Yes.
2.5 times. Okay.
But I wouldn't be able to specifically pick out a card or a person or an individual. That's why I wanted to reiterate the fact that they negotiated a fair rate.
Mr. Mayor, did you get a quote from SunTrust of what they would charge us flat rate, or is it they'll process them at whatever it comes out to?
Yes, and I tried that 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and I was able to get the percentages of the interchange fee down a lot. Every time that we came back to the table, I got them to renegotiate those interchange fees, and we were paying higher. And as they're utilizing it more, they come back to the table and they've sharpened their pencils and gave us a better rate because they wanted our business. And they continue to want that business. But the banks charge them for that processing, so that's where the main fees are coming from. And it's almost impossible sometimes to understand their statements because each card might have 20 transactions and it comes in like that. We get a daily printout of the transactions as well as the fees associated with those cards, and some of them do carry a higher percentage rate than what that 2.95.
Would this be with Chase or SunTrust?
This is Chase Bank.
Chase Bank.
We will drop that. And another food for thought, in case anybody else, we have citizens who are really dying for us to go online. We get calls every day. When are you going to go online? When are you going to go online for online bill pay or however? They are asking for this.
Do you think it might be worthwhile to do a survey with the consumers to see if they'd be willing to pay a fee before you implement a fee?
Well, I mean, we can do that if y'all would like. I think surveys are sometimes.
Most of the time, you ask somebody if they want to pay an extra fee to do something, they'll tell you right quick.
Yeah.
No.
I have told some of them that we are negotiating for an online bill pay, and they're wonderful. And I said, but it could come at a fee for you to use it. And some of them have said they didn't care. They wanted that online bill pay. They don't care. They will pay it. So they don't have to deal with, they can pay it at night. They can pay it. Their grandmother could call in, or they, instead of calling me and I put them through the hoops to pay their granddaughter's bill, they can do it online.
I totally relate. We do a lot of our paying that way also, but it's just hard to say we're going to sit here and put an added cost to it.
Mr. Mayor.
Food for thought is the ones, I'm sorry, I'll let you speak. I apologize. I wanted to iterate his question. The ones who don't want to pay, they're going to write me a check, or they're going to bring the cash in, or they're going to do online bill pay. Not online. They're going to do bill check.
And you made a comment last time we discussed it. You do not feel this is going to reduce your staff's time at all, correct?
I do not feel that way. Right now, we are maxed. I know that we don't have the money to add in employees, and so they're doing everything they can, and in between customers, they're steady running payments through. What I like about this process, it interchanges with our software. It is not, I have looked at other online bill pays, and the customer still has to pay a fee. They handle it through their the online, the ones that are outsourced, and then they send me a data, and every day I have to manually enter those transactions. I don't have staff to manually enter those transactions. With the WIP software and the Edmunds, it's interchanged. It's several buttons. Every day we go in, we balance it, we look at it, and we do that, and then we download it, and the customers get that payment. It's a pending until we download it.
You had a question?
Yes, I think that we have drifted away from the initial issue, and that was, did we want to take on the online bill pay? And we learned that it could cost citizens a lot more than we thought it might cost them to take on the online bill pay. Then we brought up, well, the city is already absorbing $65,000 and it could double Could. No guarantee that it would, but it could. So I think that we have kind of made it clear, or at least some have, that we don't want to stick all the citizens with a new fee. So that would answer the question, do we want to adopt this online thing that would affect all the citizens who come in and pay with their card? Now, the separate question is, how do we make up that 65,000 or that double? Then I would turn to legal and say, can we have a convenience fee that we charge our citizens, say $1.50, when they use their credit card? We continue to pay, things stay as they are, but we do not take on this new fee that'll hit all the citizens. And the $1.50 fee, we would use that towards the fees that we are paying. So SunTrust continues to charge what they're charging. We offset that charge, that $65,000, by the $1.50 fee that the city charges to use your credit card when you at the window, not online. Because online, we have said, if we go with this system, we have just saddled all our citizens with a new fee that can go anywhere. If their bill is $400, $12, $1,000, up to $30. It's no guarantee, except the banks are going to make a lot of money off of our citizens. If we charge a $1.50 fee to use your credit card down out here at the window, we will make money. She said that she had 29,000 credit card transactions. That's 29,000 plus at $1 a piece. That's more than the 62,000 that we're paying. So therefore, we would make more money by charging a dollar fee when they use the credit card here for the convenience, and we would recover the 62,000 the SunTrust is charging us. Does it make sense? And we stay away from this online when the only one who's going to benefit from it are the banks, because we are going to get the same amount of money regardless of what the banks charge them. If the bill is $100, we're going to get $100, but the citizen is going to pay $101 or whatever, that interest. So we deny that convenience that we've denied always, to keep from charging all of our citizens a new convenience fee.
We're not charging all. We're not charging all. Just make sure you can't throw the word out all.
I should have stayed out.
No, you should just state it like it is. Anybody who uses a plastic card, we would charge.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can charge $1.50 to whoever uses a plastic card.
Well, that's.
If you use $1.50 for the 26,873 transactions that were done in fiscal year 18, that would equate to $40,309.
Not covering your 65.
For the 26,873
transactions.
If
you charge $1 per transaction,
$1.50. You said $1.50.
That would be $40,309.50, which is short of the 65,000.
Right. We, instead of charging the city absorbing 65,000, we would only be absorbing 25,000, which is the cost of doing business, like Mr. Cutchins said. Well, okay, fine. I ain't the greatest in math, but we make more money than we're spending currently.
Yeah, we're not making money.
Well, we would recoup that expense, opposed to charging people 2.95%. So to make it easy on you guys.
If we don't go with Edmonds' bill pay, and you still have to take credit cards, it's got to be done manually, correct?
Correct.
So you would still have the fee plus the additional work in the department.
And the citizens will not be able to do it online.
Right. And that would also prohibit or inhibit, let me say, the e-check also.
Well, so yes, it would inhibit the e-check, correct. Yes, it would.
But they could continue with bill pay.
Bill pay, correct.
their reward for building the software and handling the project. They have to make money.
Well, certainly. I mean, that's, and see, and this is where we differ from a business, because if you're in a business and you know that your average on your cards is going to be X, because you got to pay American Express a lot more than you do others.
That's right.
So let's just say if I'm running a business, I'm going to figure it into the cost of goods, correct?
Right.
Just like I am my labor, just like I am my other costs, da-da-da-da. So that's the one disadvantage we have, because when you look at it, that number is a hard number as far as what somebody's utility bill, whatever their tax bill is, whatever. It's huge, you know. And when you start putting this almost 3% on it, it's easier for me to calculate it with 3%. That's a significant amount of money.
And that's why gas stations get 5 cents off for cash. Same thing.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that the ones who
So-
are paying with a check
So
or
what we
a
could,
bill pay or whatever are
so
still
anybody
paying.
who comes in with a check or somebody comes in with cash, we give them a reduction to, we can't do that.
Can't
The
do
decision is whether to proceed with Edmonds.
Is it up?
Well, we're already with Edmonds, but it's Edmonds' bill pay piece of it.
Exactly.
Is it an all or done? We have to go to credit cards, we have to do every credit card. There's no negotiating, there's no anything
We already talked to them about, we had talked to them
Yep.
before we even presented it to you guys.
about
I-
eliminating like American Express, which is a high-end card.
They're going to take American Express and they're going to charge the same fee as they charge for everything else. Because I asked them that, because we don't typically take American Express because it is so costly and the city was absorbing it. So, but for them, it's everything. Every card that is available for usage, it is the same flat 2.95.
There's no way we can buy down the rate where we send a check to Citibank for what we want to put in to buy down the rate.
I'm not sure I don't think so, but say that again.
Basically, if you get a bill, and I know we won't get a bill because it's going to be all done electronically, so that probably prohibits it. But if it was going to cost a fee of, make up a number, $12,000, and we didn't want it to be if the $3 generated $12,000, we send 6 and they charge $1.50. They're not going to do that.
No.
Well, we need to.
I'd heard of that anyway.
I mean, I
So
think for
that's-
them to move on, you know, we need to make a decision pretty quickly on whether we're going to go with this or not go with it. You know,
I have one more.
I'm sure.
Before, most companies want a direct deposit. So how about those people who pay with their card and it's formed as their check?
Each
It's
check?
yes, like a
It's
MasterCard.
$1.
No.
Mayor,
It's $1.
most of your minimum wage jobs, I used to work at Food Line, so most of your minimum wage jobs have forced their employees to go direct deposit. If they do not have a checking account, they have to get, and it's a credit card they are sent.
It's the same thing. It's tied to the.
Just like your tax returns now. Your tax returns come in on a
It's
usually come to Ray's Candy.
So anyway, but you know how it is. All crazy. All right.
E-debit, yes, it's the same thing. I'm sorry. I
What do we
wasn't
want to
sure.
do, guys? We've got to we need a decision by when?
Tonight.
Call for the question for the third time.
Oh, I don't have a motion. It's hard to call for a question if you
Call
don't
for,
have a motion.
well, the motion is, do we want to adopt the
No,
new
that's not-
fees that come along with the online billing?
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
If so be it, so move.
Well, no, I mean, you can't call
Okay,
for a
I make a
question.
motion, I make a motion that we do not adopt the new online fees that we have just been reminded of, that weren't $2.95, but were 2.95. We do not adopt that because it would charge everybody
Not everybody.
No.
that uses a card.
I'm a little confused.
So am I.
Oh, we need a motion either to
Table this.
to do away with the bill pay
If I
altogether?
could try.
Or go ahead.
I'd make a motion that we accept the Edmunds module that does online billing.
Told you.
And the payment thereof.
Okay, so we have a motion. We can
There was
vote.
already a motion on the table, first of all, and
Well,
second of all, I said if I go for getting rid of it, they're gonna go the other way, so I shouldn't have said that.
You can still, regardless of what we can put a motion on, we can still vote it down. If you vote it down, that takes care of it.
I didn't understand the motion. Can you say it again?
Well,
What did you make?
well,
He wants to go with the
Which one?
online.
I didn't see.
I just want to hear what,
The motion was to accept the Edmunds proposal for their module for online payment plan.
With who pays the fee?
I personally think the consumer should pay the fee.
That ain't part of the motion, that's part of the discussion.
I agree with that.
okay. Just the opposite of, I mean, it's all right. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Hearing none,
Motion fails.
right. No motion.
I make a motion that we do not accept the Edmunds proposal to go with the online payment.
Second.
I have a motion that we do not accept the Edmunds proposal. Is that, okay? All right. All those in, any questions?
just one quick question. Does anybody have any idea what we paid for this service that we're now going to kick down the road? Roughly.
The online bill pay is just, it's really not a separate module, it's just a
It's a part of
It's a feature.
it. Okay. So it's not costing us any, it didn't cost us any money.
It tells them, and it's- yeah, it's not a charge.
a screen, I mean, we were just filling out a form to say they're gonna put the screen on.
So then-
the utility screen and on the tax screen.
And if we make this decision tonight not to go forward with it, is that one time, we can do it again? Okay.
It won't happen by March 15th when the module goes live.
No, I understand that. But if we wait a year and people start saying we really want it, then we can come back.
Which would give time for surveys and those type of things
Yeah.
to see. Okay. So all we're saying is it will still be out there as part of the software. What we're saying is that we're not going to offer the,
At this time.
is that what I
Right,
hear?
right. And it'd still be through SunTrust, correct?
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye, nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye, motion carries. Okay,
That was easy. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Mr. Mundy, do you have something for us?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, one of the things that I want to clarify before we jump too deep into the city manager's reports is to make sure we cover the agenda thoroughly. And the one item that I'm looking at is back up to the finance report for just a minute and the budget amendments. And one of the members of the staff mentioned that we inadvertently skipped an item, I think right after the second budget amendment. There is a part in your packet, at least we think it went out in the packet. I know we've had some issues in downloading that because of the exchange problem that we've had. But one of them in here is a grant opportunity to where we need to repurpose some funds that are already budgeted. And then again, this is not to ask for new money or an appropriation from the fund balance, but it is to repurpose money that was designated for another purpose before. And I have Mr. Goodwin and Ms. Spence here, and somebody needs to come up to the podium and explain a little bit about the Obacy Foundation challenge part of it and what this would do by repurposing these funds that are already being budgeted.
Would it be in the form of a budget amendment, or is it just
In the past, Mr. Mayor, every locality that I've worked for, it's been a matter of the city manager just communicating that to the
Okay.
governing board, so nobody knows that we pulled anything
Okay,
funny.
so this is
that we
just for our information?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, and we want you to know it in full disclosure, so later, when these pieces move around in the budget, you're aware of why that happened.
Right.
Thank you.
Council, it got mixed in with the budget amendments. So it's a memo from me. It's the second part that talks about the, and Mayor, you're familiar with this. We've applied on behalf of Parks and Rec. My department applied for an OPC grant, $50,000, to use to repurpose or redo the tennis courts up at Armory Park. We have in our CIP funds that were earmarked for Riverwood, the Riverwalk project, which we did not get funded. So those matching funds are there for this year, next year for the Riverwalk Park. And because we can't apply for those again until late 2020, that because these OPC funds are available to us, what's in the CIP would provide our match for this project in Armory Park. Is to resurface the unutilized tennis courts and put various multiple type activities. Clay's here tonight if you have any questions for him about that, but real quickly, it's just to repurpose those tennis courts so they can use it for various things, soccer, batting practice, pitching, all types of different activities for some of the older kids that we're trying to serve. The other thing we need from council is in your CIP that we do every year, there's a description of what the funds are going to be used for. And the description currently says playground equipment, including College Drive, Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center, Bruce Street, and Riverwalk Park. All I'm asking tonight is that we amend that description portion of the CIP to include and improvements in various city parks. So if a project does come up that it's not specifically written for these 4 parks and Parks and Recreation, that we can actually funnel those funds to that park. Once you're coming back to you guys. So it's just to support this grant application. Hopefully we'll not have to use any of those funds, maybe just a small portion of them, because we have a commitment, I believe, from U.S. Soccer that said that once we get the grants and the funds are in place, that they would pay for 33% of it. International Paper, I believe, Mayor, has shown interest in providing some funds as well. If you recall, they helped support the Kaboom project that they did, and this is just kind of a spin-off on that. So basically, I'm just asking that you include asking that you change the language in the CIP for that line item for Parks and Rec.
Okay. Would you mention, you said 4 parks?
Well, they specifically said College Drive, Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center, Bruce Street, and Riverwalk. What I'm asking is that it be amended to read playground equipment and improvements at various parks, including College Drive, and so forth.
So it gives us the opportunity for any park that we have in the city to apply for any kind of grant funds and use those funds as part of our obligation, if you would, to fund the grant, not to fund the grant, but to meet our matching part of the grant.
Right.
Oh, well, I guess my question is, I was concerned about the Bruce Street Park that has tennis courts, but has been, for lack of a word, ignored.
Never used.
In the past. I would like to see that a viable park.
And that's something we could look at down the road, and if that's something that Parks and Rec rises to the top of their priority list, and they want to apply for those funds, the OPC Foundation funds are available every year.
Okay, let me ask you. Okay, so we had funds that we set aside for the Riverwalk. Because we didn't get the grant, those funds are basically just there.
They're there this year.
Now, we want to apply for another grant that will give us money for parks, and you want to take the money that was for the Riverwalk and put it to the money for the parks.
Obligated to match this grant for the Army Drive Park. Right, the tennis courts, yes, sir.
No, hold it, 'cause that's a difference between the parks. He's mentioned Bruce Street.
Well, Bruce Street is already in here, but this project rose to the top of the list based on what we were able to meet with OBC about what their...
Well, the reason I say that is I could be in support of this from the perspective of there was brought before council and the city manager a program by a local organization, I think they go by STEP, where they wanted to put a gymnasium onto Martin Luther King Center, and they were told that there weren't any funds to really help them. But if we took the money from the riverfront and from the OBC grant, we should be able to substantially help them with that project.
But the OBC grant, the OBC grant is for a specific need and a specific thing that they've identified that qualifies.
Well, have they said they'll only give us the money for the tennis court?
We only applied for that.
We applied for a $5,000 grant, which we will put together an advisory committee for these types of projects that come up, and that STEP group is part of that organization. We talked to them about that. They know we're applying for this grant because it's more specific.
So if it'll help them get closer,
yes,
then I can vote for it.
Absolutely, it's going to help them get closer. And that's one is it's a multi-year grant up to $100,000 for 3 years. That's the one we want to go after for that.
Now, can we substantial funds have been raised to put that gymnasium up?
Absolutely, I'm aware of it.
Could we make a contribution as a city if we could not partner with them using those grant funds that we have secured, and this riverfront money that we are just letting sit there?
Well,
I saw you shake your head no.
We got to be careful how we do that. But from a grant, most of the time when you get grant money, it's for a specific.
If you commingle, Mr. Mayor, you're going to jail.
Well, it's not.
I can say that and we're hoping that we're not going to have to delve into the city's CIP funds very much. We just want to use these to obligate to get the grant. Once we get the grant and the funding's there, then these other agencies will come in, but they won't come in unless they know we can do the project on our own if we need to.
See, because my concern is you want grant funds, I'm all for helping you get the grant funds. We have funds that was set aside for a Riverwalk that we can't use because we didn't get the grant.
That's right.
I'm saying now we have some funds. The youth need something to do. They need a place to go. This project has been supported by citizens, and they have raised a considerable amount of money towards it. I'm just saying, would we be denied the grant if we said we would like to use this grant to help with that?
Well, and these particular funds we're talking about right now today would need to be obligated towards this project that we applied for the grant for.
And you've already applied for it for a tennis court.
Right.
It's not for a tennis court, it's for a multi-use in support of the playground that's already there as well.
There's another grant opportunity around coming up that we need to get more prepared for to support the gym addition to the King Center. And we've spoke with the funding agency about that, and we're not ready for that. We're not at that level to apply for those funds yet, because we haven't done another research and public input. And we're going to have some public meetings about that, get citizens' input, so we can show our due diligence before we.
So this money is not earmarked for the tennis courts?
The $50,000 is
earmarked for the tennis courts.
Right.
For the repurposing of the tennis court.
Of the tennis courts. So this money would not be available, and it would be commingling money if we took the money for the tennis courts and tried to help the gymnasium.
Not right now, because they wouldn't be funded now anyway, because they're nowhere near.
So they wouldn't give us the
Project.
grant if we told them that we wanted to put it towards a gymnasium?
No, not this grant, because we applied for a specific project.
Possibly in the future when the ground is broken, maybe.
I just want to kind of make it clear who's in support of it and who's not.
I don't know that
Just
you've
asking
done,
for
I
a
don't
text
have.
amendment to the CIP to include the various parts.
And you don't need a vote or anything.
I just have a question. What's the total in the CIP? I don't have it in front of me. What's the total for this line that you said is for parks for this year?
50,000. Well, we're in our budget. We included 20,000 from this year's funds and 22.4 from next fiscal year.
But is that we're going to use up the total line item for all the parks?
Yeah,
in
there'd
it?
be-
So what's the
there'd still
total?
be, I think 50,000 is total in there.
50? So
And
you're
some
asking
of
us to allow that 20,000 out of this year and 22.4 out of next year from that line item?
To obligate towards this grant application.
Okay.
As match.
Clear.
And
I want to
hopefully
clear.
we don't need it. If we get other, and we will have other commitments where we may not need.
And how much do we have set aside from the Riverwalk project?
I think that was 20. They have the same amount, 20 this year and 20 next year. So we'll just.
I make a motion that we make the budget amendment as requested.
It's not, we're not changing, we're not doing anything with the money, we're just going to change the description of
Okay.
the.
Okay.
Well, let's make it official by making it a motion. Is that all right? We've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we'll get to your city manager.
Okay, just, Mr. Mayor, I have two matters for you. One of the things I became aware of is before the Senate in this session of the General Assembly, there is a joint resolution that will be read in the 2019 General Assembly. The purpose of that joint resolution is to recognize and celebrate 100 years of service by the Commissioners of the Revenues Association to the state. And of course, that's the Association of Commissioners of Revenue that advocate for different things that help the Commissioners of Revenue do their job, which really is a local function of government, but we do get some support from the state to help us with that. During your next council meeting, our Commissioner of Revenue will be at the legislative conference and will miss your council meeting. And I know that's pretty rare because Ms. Rickman is generally here with us in attendance. And I'm bringing this to your attention because it's important for us to recognize the work that our commissioners do and also the staffs there. And in working in different localities, I can say that many localities do not enjoy the luxury that Franklin has of having an administration that works so well with its constitutional officers. And I've been very impressed here that Ms. Rickman and also Ms. Babb both, they do much more than just what their day jobs are, being either the treasurer or the commissioners of revenue, but this particular issue is about Ms. Rickman. But both of them go above and beyond the call of duty. Not only do they do their state mandated functions, but they also serve on committees to help the city as well. And I just wanted you to know that when you see Ms. Rickman not at your next council meeting, she'll be representing Franklin at the state level as a part of that 100 years of service that will be recognized by the General Assembly. So, Mr. Mayor, in summary, just wanted to recognize Ms. Rickman, let her know that I appreciate working with her, and to call attention to our citizens and the governing body, the good work that she does and the employees of her office.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mrs. Rickman. I don't think you've been quite 100 years.
39 at the most.
But we. The words right out of my mouth.
Judging from your license plate, you're pretty close to that. But we do appreciate what you've done. And should we do a formal resolution to that end ourselves. You know, even though she won't be here at the next meeting, we could certainly do one.
Well, this particular joint resolution is really for the General Assembly to pay praise and thanks to the association as well, and I defer to Ms. Rickman on that a little bit later, but I just want to call it to your attention that she really does a good service to the citizens of Franklin.
Well, she does, and thank you very much. We do appreciate you. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, the last thing that I want to say, this is my last meeting that I'll be sitting with you as your interim city manager. And I just wanted to first of all thank you for your confidence in allowing me to serve you. It's been a real privilege and an honor. The staff has been good to work with. You as an elected body, you've been easy to serve. I think we've got a lot of things done. I wish we had more time to do more things together in the future, but that's the way it works with an interim. We're only here for a short amount of time, and then we move back into retirement or whatever we do next. But I wanted to thank you for allowing me to serve you, and to say to our incoming city manager, Ms. Jarrett, I know you've made an outstanding selection, and I look for good things to come through her leadership and your vision, and in working with the city manager to continue moving Franklin forward. So again, thank you very much, and I've enjoyed my time with you.
Well, we're the ones who should be thanking you for stepping in, and with your degree of professionalism that you have shared with us, and the guidance that you've given us all over the last 4 months. We appreciate what you have done for us. We wish you all the best in your next retirement. I guess you keep getting pulled from retirement, but thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
Thank you. We have council reports on boards and commissions. Anybody have anything?
We've got a couple of them, I guess. One is the mayor and I went to the joint meeting of the HR Tech and HRTPO. A lot of discussion on the new hot lanes and the building of them, and it pretty much rested on the tunnel, Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, where the north trestles are included, but the south trestles need to be replaced. The governor and them want the locality to pay for it, even though the money that we raise out of the taxes are to be for new projects, not repairing old projects. So there's a big battle going on. Senator Wagner and Chris Jones have written a letter saying that it's not right and they want it changed, that the trestles need to be paid for, not out of the new money. It would put a big hamper on the overall project, which is quite extensive, as the hot lanes will be running from Bowers Hill all the way through the Hampton Roads Tunnel and into and also out to the Naval Base. So that's a big to do, and I'll let the mayor add on anything else he'd like to add on to that.
No, you covered it. That's good.
The other one we had was the jail. The jail was fairly quick, quiet meeting this time.
Yes.
Things are going well. We are setting up to have a budget meeting on the 19th in the morning. They're supposed to send me the budget for me to review, since we're going to be in between on city manager on that point for that. So I'll be there for that, or that's my initial plan anyway. If I can't make it, then Mr. Johnson will make it, and we'll be reviewing the budget together.
Okay, good.
Right.
So,
Was there any update on the airport resolution, or what we talked about on the change of the name and so forth?
That
will fall under old business.
Mr. Mayor, we're tentatively scheduling that for your next regular council meeting.
Okay. We will have a vote on that one. Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Yes, I have the 2019 legislative program for the Virginia Assembly, which covers cities, towns, and counties. I'll give a brief outline. I'll be bringing some more information because it's a lot, but I'll give a gist of it now, and I'll bring some more at the next meeting. The things that will be addressed by the General Assembly is the economic development plan, education, environment and agriculture, finance, general government, health, and human services, and transportation. I would like to say with health, the numbers have been escalating for health care, basically senior citizens and so forth. That will continue to escalate, but the other one, the new program with the health program is working out good. But some of the things that they'll be covering is broadband, especially for rural areas as well. Broadband in rural areas, which involves Franklin, Southampton County, and others, just like the cities will be doing. We'll be working to get broadband in this area as well. Some of the other things is land use. We'll be discussing that. Regular home businesses, that will be on the agenda. Affordable workforce for housing, economic development. One of the things, schools would be, the governor has money to build new schools, basically, because that had stopped for the last 7 years. Money would be available for building new schools. Money will be available for teachers. One of the things that localities have to look at is whether it's a 3% or 5% raise that the governor plans to do. The localities will have to match whatever that is. So
of course, that's the only way to do it.
Yes. So that's something that is going to be needed. But one of the fascinating things they'll be discussing is, so if you file a certain way on your federal, and in the past you should file the same way with the state, they're looking to change that, where you could file one way with the federal and then another way with the state. And there'll be extra money for the jails, as well as the K-12 program as well, which includes more food for students. And their rail, they'll be looking at transportation and rail as well as rail usage as well. And there are a number more things I'll give you in the next
okay. Thank you.
Next meeting.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Real quick? The item that he was talking about with the federal and the state having a different filing status, right now we do not have a tax law for 2018. It has not been passed yet, and it probably, if they don't go ahead and make up their mind what they're going to do, it may be even the middle of February like it was last year. I would encourage everybody to contact your local representative, senator, and House member, and to please pass conformity as soon as possible. It's holding up everybody's tax returns, and it'll make it even harder to get the returns done. That includes refunds. So please contact them and let them know to pass conformity and don't change the policy. That's not, they had a whole year to do that, and now they're going to try to do it right here at the tail end. They need to pass the conformity and deal with policy going forward.
As they do every year.
And they do it every year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Before I entertain a motion to go into closed session, I'm going to invite the incoming city manager to attend, as well as Mr. Craig. Jamie Craig is going to be in to make us a presentation during that time. So before we go in, I just want to make that clear. All right, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that a Franklin City Council meeting closed session to discuss and consider a prospective candidate for employment, to discuss and consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, to discuss and consider a prospective business where no previous announcement has been made of the business interest and locating in the city, consultation with legal counsel pertaining to probable litigation where such briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating posture of the city. Consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711, A1, A3, A5, A7, and A8.
Okay, well, that's an agenda in and of itself.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. All right. We will be in closed session. Thank you all very much.